Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsea. If you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up or commenting below. If you want to see more of my videos, press the subscribe button and click on the bell for notifications. If you need any Stampin' Up! Products to make this card, you can visit my online store and the link is in the description box below. When you purchase Stampin' Up! Products through me, you can earn free products. Check out my current customer appreciation products on my blog, and the link is listed below in the description. Today I'd like to share with you a fun technique that I shared on the Artisan Design team on their Stampin' Up! Facebook and Instagram pages. This is a fun technique that you can use with any stamp set, but the In Symmetry Stamp Set, which is the one I've used, is perfect for this since it creates some nice symmetrical patterns. So let's go ahead and get started. So to begin, you're going to need a square piece of cardstock. And I'm starting with a 5.5 inch squared piece. Now, the reason I'm starting with that size is because that's the largest size for my card. So the largest piece here that I want is 5.25 inches. And so it just gives me a little bit extra on the top and bottom to kind of trim down to the pattern that I want. So what we're going to do is we're going to identify the center and the diagonal for this piece of paper. So at 5.5 inches, the center should be at 2 3/4. And you're going to take your scoring blade and lightly score. Just do it really lightly. You do not want it to show up too much on your card. You want to just barely see it yourself since you know it's there. Then you're going to take, and at the angle, you're going to score again from one corner to the opposite corner. And again, really lightly. Okay, so I've done that there. I have done a darker example here so that you can see a little bit better how it turns out. But again, you want it to be really nice and light. So you find the center and then the diagonal. So this technique uses the Stamparatus, and you should use, if you're going to use the In Symmetry Stamp Set, because it's a photopolymer stamp, you're going to need the extra foam mat that comes with your Stamparatus, and you'll want your magnets. And remember to keep your magnets separate or they can shatter. I am going to use a grid paper just to make sure I keep everything nice and clean in case my images get stamped off my cardstock. And just to make things easier, I do have both of my plates. I like to hinge on the side instead of the top. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. And I'm going to place my cardstock into the corner here. And that's going to be my guide so that every time I move my cardstock, I know it's in the right spot. Then I'm going to add, actually when I add it, I need this line to be horizontal. So my center point line, I want horizontal. Then I'm going to take one of my images and I'm going to start with this small tulip. And the reason for that is because I want that to be centered right on this line here. So I'm going to go ahead, line it up. I'm going to be able to see right through it because it's one of those photopolymer images. I've lined up the center of the top to the center of the bottom and right along that score line that I made. And then I'm going to go ahead and pick it up. And then you see how that cardstock moves, but I'm not worried about that because I can just line it back up. And I'm going to add my second magnet now to hold everything in place. So now I'm going to ink up that image with Flirty Flamingo. The nice thing about creating patterns like this is you can create them in any color combination you want. So then I'm going to ink that and stamp it. Lift it up. If by chance it didn't turn out perfect the first time, you can always ink it up again and stamp again. Just make sure that paper is back in that corner so that you know that it's in the right spot. Remove your magnets and then rotate. Put it in the corner. So you're just rotating it at 90 degrees. You're placing it back in the corner and you're going to stamp that again, and you're going to repeat it for all sides. So I did notice that I got a little fingerprint here. Hopefully I'll be able to cover that up with either an element or a stamp. But now I'm just going to remove this plate, and I can clean that, get a new plate, or remove that stamp and put a new stamp on. So the next stamp I want to do is the large half flower, and I'm going to actually place that. I've got my diagonal here. I'm going to place that right between these others, these two stamps that I created earlier. I'm looking for the diagonal to go straight through the bottom and then straight through the top of that middle petal here. And then I'm going to make sure everything's in the corner, and then go ahead and pick that stamp up with the clear plate. And then put that back in the corner since it moved just a little bit. And then for this image, I'm going to stamp it in Bumblebee ink. So I've got this one, and I'm going to be just a little bit more careful to make sure that I don't get ink on my fingers. And then remove those magnets and rotate 90 degrees, and just keep this going until you have that image on all four corners. So I decided to leave my stamps on the clear plates, and if I just flip it over, then I have a nice clean side to work with, and I can add another stamp. And the reason I'm going to leave it is so that I can come back and make as many of these cards as I want super quick and easily, because I've already identified location. I don't need to do the score lines, and I can just throw on another 5.5 inch piece of cardstock, and I can rotate it and just mass produce these cards really nicely and quickly. So the next image that I'm going to work with is one of the leaf images. So I'm going to use this double leaf here. I just noticed that my large leaf isn't going to fit as nicely because I did my flower upside down. So here I had the petals on the inside, and now I have placed them on the outside, which is fine. I'm just going to need to make a change to my original design. So originally I was using the large leaves on the outside, but now I'm thinking of using these small leaves on the inside, and maybe placing them near the bottom of the small tulip flower here. So that's one of the fun things about designing your own pattern, is that you can make it look however you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick that up, and then use the Just Jade color, and we're going to stamp this leaf here. And I lined it up on my score line, so that's how I know it's going to be in the right location. So there's that. I think that's looking really fun and totally different, which is great to be able to show different ways of using these stamps. So now I want to grab this larger flower here, and along this diagonal, so maybe right here, I will add it to our pattern that we're creating. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my other plate and place this flower right underneath my yellow flower. And I'm going to do this one in Night of Navy, and I've got the diagonal going straight through that flower. Put it up in the corner, add my magnets. I'm just going to double check it's all in the right spot. And use Night of Navy for this one. All right, so we have a center area that we're going to need to design. I'm thinking of putting this stem here in the center and doing kind of like a little flower coming out of that, right like that. So I'm going to start with this stem. So once you have it where you want it, you're just going to pick it up, add some ink on it, and then stamp that where you placed it. And then you're just going to rotate this again, and you're only going to need to stamp it twice since it's going across that midline. So ink again and stamp. Okay, so I've got a little X there, and now I can add a little tiny flower to that. So I'm going to rotate this and place my flower right here, I think. Or maybe right across this line. My line now is on the horizontal, so I'm going to place the bottom of this little tulip and then the top of that horizontal line. And then pick this up. And then I'm thinking maybe of doing this in yellow, just to add a little more yellow there in the center. So this is a little yellow tulip underneath the pink one. All right, so I think my design is all done. I'm going to be adding a greeting right over the center here. So some of these stamped images may not even be seen, but it's good to have a full image for our card. So we're going to remove this from the Stamparatus, and we'll go ahead and get it ready for our card. Okay, so now we're going to take this pattern and we're going to trim it down so it fits on our card base. So this is our center points. So our first size we're going to worry about is the 4-inch mark. And so right here is our middle, and that's going to sit on 2 inches. So just make sure, and you can line it up here. There's lots of different ways you can line it up. If you want, you can just place that top point on your 2-inch line on both sides. Then you'll know it's right in the center, and then trim off one edge. Then you can rotate and line that edge up now with the 4-inch mark, and that line is still on the 2-inch. So you know that you've got a nice even sides on both sides. You can see how it cuts off a little bit of that tulip on the left and right. And then our next point we're going to cut is we're just going to trim it to 5 1/4 inches. And so because it's at 5 1/2, we need to remove just 1/8 of an inch off of the top and bottom. So then I can measure this over here at 5 1/4 or on the 1/8 on the top and bottom. And so now this is ready for the front of our card. I've got a card base of Night of Navy, and I'm just going to score that with my bone folder. I'm going to add this pattern that we created right to the center of the front. Then I've got Best Day Ever. I'm going to add some adhesive to this. I've stamped it in Versamark ink on some Night of Navy cardstock, embossed it with white embossing powder. And then I'm going to add about 16 inches of silver twine. Just kind of fluff that a little bit. Place that on the back. This one doesn't want to stay. There we go. And then I'm just going to adjust a couple. I'm going to add this with dimensionals. So place a dimensional over that twine so it stays in place. And then that's just going to go right in the center of your card. And your quick and easy and symmetrical card is all done. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching me create this fun card today. If you're interested in getting written instructions or seeing close-up images, you can visit my blog at creativechelsea.com. Thanks so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.